So if you've downloaded the Daggerheart Quickstart adventure, Sablewood Messengers, you opened it up and saw phrases like Duality Dice, Hope and Fear, and a frog character named Barnacle who refuses to swim. Are you excited, confused, a little nervous? Well, today we're going to go over this quick start guide with no spoilers, so players are invited too. And we're going to walk through what you'll actually experience when you play Daggerheart's first official adventure, the Sablewood Messengers. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly whether or not this game is for you. Welcome, adventurers. We're going to go over this quick start guide that I have up here on my laptop, and we'll go through it together so you know exactly what to expect. Now, this adventure says it is built for 3 to 6 players, with one person being the game master and the other 2 to 5 being PCs in the game. So this full PDF actually includes some intro rules. The core book is not required to play this. It might be helpful if you want to look up something a little more in-depth or add in some of the rules that are in the core set, but you can play this with just the intro rules that are in this document. It also includes 5 pre-generated characters, which I really suggest using for a quick start adventure like this, because it's going to make sure that those characters are kind of built to work well with this adventure. If your players are just randomly creating a character from scratch, they may not get to use all the abilities that they picked because it might not go with this scenario very well. So I really suggest using the pre-made ones. Now, you will notice, and we'll get into this, that it says that Marlowe, the pre-made character, must be used in this game, and we'll go over that. You're also going to find a GM guide, the adventure text, and some printable standees if you're playing in person and want some little paper standees to represent the characters on a battle map, which is kind of exciting. It does say that this can be completed in one 3-4 hour session. Now, I will tell you that my gaming group usually meets for 3 hours, and we had to go a little over. We went 4 hours, and I still cut a little bit of stuff out to wrap it up. So depending on how much your group actually likes to role play, you could get through it in 3 to 4 hours, but you might want to set aside 4 to 5 hours for this adventure, especially if you want to actually look up some rules as you're playing as well to get it to go a little smoother. So this game also uses tokens to represent the fear. So you are going to need some little tokens to either put on the table or something that you can use online to represent how many fear tokens the GM has, and we'll go into that as well. You are going to need polyhedral dice as well as an extra D12. This is a 2D12 system. You are going to want to make sure that these D12s look drastically different because you need to be able to tell them apart. You need to assign one of them to be your hope die and the other one to be your fear die, for the players that is, not for the GM. And you need to know which die rolled higher. So those 2 dice need to look drastically different. And you may need some scissors if you're going to print this out and use the paper standees that come with it. So let's get into this. I've got the document open right over here, the Daggerheart Quick Start Adventure. And it is 39 pages to give you a sense of the amount of information that's included in this document. Again, the whole adventure isn't 39 pages. This is just all pre-made characters, which take up multiple pages. It's the GM advice, the basic rules, and the paper cutouts. So it's not 39 pages of adventure. So it first goes into a little bit of an introduction, telling you a lot of the stuff I just told you about, what you need to play, how many players and everything. And it then goes into the pre-made characters right away. Now there are 5 pre-made characters with this. You've got an elf sorcerer, a ribbit rogue, and a ribbit is a frog person in this world, it's great, a human warrior, a giant guardian, and a Qatari ranger. And a Qatari is a cat person. They already have names assigned to them. You've got Marlowe, Barnacle, Garrick, Kari, and Varian. But players can feel free to change those if they'd like. But sometimes I think it's fun to use the names that they've got. And it gives you a little bit of background on each player. So Marlowe, the Loreborn elf sorcerer, says she is actually the personal mage to the king. She's responsible for bringing the group together. She appears calm until she isn't, and she must be played during this adventure. And I'll talk a little bit more later about why. So the next one is Barnacle. He is an underborn ribbit rogue. It says there's no danger he will not get into and no situation he cannot get out of, but he fears water and will not swim, which is kind of interesting for a frog. Garrick Reed, the highborn human warrior. His description says he's a defector from a distant military force. He approaches most conflict with a kill him with kindness attitude. Maybe that has to do with why he defected. Pardon me. Then you've got Kari Nix. That is the Ridgeborn giant guardian. Loyal to the end with a dry sense of humor, she will suffer no fools. Kari was practically born with an axe in her hand. And then you've got Varian Soto, the wildborn Qatari ranger. It says they take a shoot first, ask questions later approach. Any problem that can't be solved with a bow isn't a problem yet. So that's kind of a little background on each character, and you could pick out which one you would like to play. Next comes the actual character overviews. So you've got 3 pages, I think, for Marlowe alone. You can certainly print these out so that players can have the character sheets right in front of them. If you're playing in person, that might be a very good thing to do for new players. But you can also get them for free on Demiplane. Demiplane has them. You just need a free Demiplane account and you can access these pre-made characters without getting a subscription to Demiplane. So it goes into a little bit of character overview and the ancestry and the community that the character comes from. And it goes over their character sheet and their standee. So this is where, if you've printed them out, you can cut out a little 2-sided piece of rectangular paper and then fold it in half. So you have like a little teepee that will sit on the table and will be a visual for that character. Now it does go over character connections. That's a really interesting thing that happens in Daggerheart, is you create connections with the other players. This is a thing in D&D as well. It's kind of like your bonds, but I find that not a lot of players and not a lot of tables actually do these. I know I've played in games that do go over character bonds and ones that don't. And sometimes those bonds are actually with NPCs that aren't even like in the game. But with Daggerheart, it actually wants you to create these connections with other players at the table to make for some really interesting and unique role-playing moments. So for instance, for Marlowe, it wants you to come up with, it has a blank spot to write in the character's name, and then their connection is, I trust you with my life. Then for another character, I once considered you close, and for another one, I owed you a favor. So it says assign at least one of these. Ideally, you maybe want a connection with every other character, every other player at the table. But it does say try to do at least one of them because it's going to create for some interesting role-playing moments. Then it gets into her actual character sheet. So on these sheets across the top, it has their 6 stats. And these are very different from D&D name-wise. They have agility, strength, finesse, instinct, presence, and knowledge. And under each of those, it will actually tell you what types of actions they would be associated with. Like agility is for sprinting, leaping, or maneuvering, right? You get it. And like finesse is control, hide, or tinker. So you can, it gives you like a little mini cheat sheet right on there. So if I need to roll something, it's a little easier to figure out what type of, like, what do I use presence for? Oh, charming, performing, or deceiving. It's right on the sheet. So you get their character sheet already all filled out because, like I said, these are pre-made characters. And then the next page is actually what they call a sidecar, which I thought was really cool. If you've got the printed out sheets, you print this sheet out and cut it up the middle vertically so you have 2 long pieces of paper. And if you put them to the sides of your character sheet, it has arrows and it lines up with certain things to actually explain to you what this is. Like there's an arrow that points to the evasion box on the sheet, and it will say evasion represents your ability to avoid an attack. Yours is 10. The GM rolls against this number when determining if an adversary hits you. And it kind of explains the basics. If you forget, you don't have to go back to the full document or open a book. You have these little cheat sheets right to the left and right of your character sheet, which I thought was really cool. Then it actually goes into the character's loadout. Now, the term loadout refers to those cards. If you're familiar with the core set or the limited edition set, Daggerheart uses a lot of cards that the players actually put on the table by them, or it would be on the computer screen, or in Demiplane you can click and it will open the card. And has a wonderful piece of artwork on the top, and then the bottom half explains one of their abilities or something they have like that. Kind of similar to like a Magic the Gathering card or like any type of collectible card, whether it's a card game or just for collecting. There's usually artwork on the top and text on the bottom. So this explains that like has elf ancestry. So she has an ancestry card that says elf. And it has a little bit of flavor text, but then the abilities that she gets from being an elf. She has quick reaction. She can mark a stress to get advantage on a reaction roll. Things like that. So then it's going to go over the different cards that she would have. And it just keeps going through each character. So then we have Barnacle, the Ribbit, and you have his background, his character sheet, the sidecar pages that explain the sheet that you can print out there, and then the pictures of the loadout cards. And then we go through each one. So I'm going to scroll just to get past all these characters because it's just going to be repetition of the same set of cards, a same set of pages for each one, till you get to the end. Here's the last one. And then we get to the Game Master Adventure Guide. So starting on page 22, the next section is for the Game Master to read. It's basically how to run the game, how to teach the game to other people, which I thought was great too, because you know how a RPG adventure will have text boxes that you can read aloud, which kind of explains to other people at the table what's going on? This one actually has text boxes you can read aloud to teach the game to someone else. Because I understand how a game master, if you've just learned the game yourself, it can be very nerve-wracking kind of a nervous experience to try to explain a game to someone else and how to run it, how to play it. But this actually gives you some text boxes to read word by word, if you want, to your players at the table to teach them how to play. So it actually explains to them, there's a whole section on teaching the game. And here's an example of that. Like the first text box literally says, we're going to quickly cover the basics of what you need to know to start playing. First off, Daggerheart is a collaborative, narrative-focused role-playing game. That means we'll all be working together to tell a story using the mechanics of the game as our foundation. So if you're someone who gets nervous trying to teach a game to someone else, this is great because you can just read the boxes in here to teach. It's going to explain to everybody how to read the stuff on their character sheet. And then it goes into talking about hope and fear, which is great because I'm actually going to go through this a little bit so that you can realize whether or not this is a game you would like to play. So the dice in this game really affect the story and the direction that the story takes. The game master will set a difficulty for a roll that's being made based on the situation. Then the players are going to roll their 2 d12s, their duality dice, that look very different, right? One is a hope die, one is a fear die. They will roll them, add the total together, add any additional modifiers that apply, and then let the DM know the total, plus whether the hope die came out higher or the fear die came out higher. And this is actually going to really affect the narrative of the story. And it explains it great in the Quick Start Guide because it says, if you get a success with hope, it means you accomplish your goal and all is well. You can continue to pass the scene around the table to the other players as you like. A success with fear means you do what you're trying to do, but there's a consequence or a complication. So I gain a fear and can make what we call a GM move. This is how you're going to explain to new players how to play the game. It goes through everything step by step, so there's no need to worry about explaining it. Lastly, it also goes through how to explain combat to people. And then there's some great artwork in here as well. When I ran this, I ran it online over Discord, and we use Owlbear Rodeo as our tabletop. So I screenshotted some of the artwork and then put it up in Owlbear Rodeo so that the players could see the artwork that's included. It's great. Okay, so then we have teaching the game continued. It kind of goes into, now it's more explaining the mechanics of having a combat for the GM. It explains setting the difficulty before a roll. It talks about the different ranges, because Daggerheart uses ranges of melee, very close, close, far, and very far, instead of 15 feet, 20 feet, 5 feet. It doesn't go in terms of feet. It does give a reference. Very close, it says, is 5 to 10 feet. Close is 10 to 30 feet. But your abilities will literally just say, target someone in close range. Target someone that's very close. This is a melee attack. So all you have to know is if you're within that range. And it has some really great suggestions of using measurement tools to be able to figure that out quickly and easily without counting squares and counting math out to see if you're close enough. It gives an example of an adversary stat block. They refer to adversaries as the people that they'll come into combat with. So it could be a monster, but it could be a person, a humanoid as well. So that's why they refer to them as adversaries. So it has a complete breakdown of how to read the boxes. And then it goes into an overview of the adventure. This adventure is split into 5 acts. And on this page, I think it's page 29 of the Quick Start, 28 of the Quick Start, there's just a graphic image, a piece of artwork image with a couple sentences summarizing this act. So you kind of get the flow of, oh, okay, I see where the story's going here. We're going to start with this, then move into this, then this will happen, and this is how we get to the conclusion of the story. Okay, then it actually goes into each act. So by page 29, because I had all those pre-made characters, I'm already 29 pages in. So there's only 10 pages left for the actual adventure. That's when it starts with Act 1. Here's what you read to your players, and goes step by step. And it's because it's a quick start guide, it's teaching you the rules little by little as you go. You don't need to memorize all the rules that were earlier in the document for how to do everything. It's going to tell you, read this, see what they do, read this out, and then it tells you if they rolled this, they succeeded, and then you do this. And if they failed, do this. So I'm trying not to give any spoilers. So it really walks you right through learning the game step by step. And then we get into Act 2. So it builds more rules on. Like, all you need for Act 1 is a few basic rules. And then Act 2 builds on that and adds in a few more things, right? So you're learning the rules little by little as you go, right? And then you get into Act 3 is more of a social environment, which kind of is a great way to actually ease the group into just a little bit of role-playing and get people comfortable with having some conversations at the table and what would your character say and do in these situations. And then, so the rest of it continues, and the challenges for the players and for the GM get a little heavier. They put a little more in there. So like I said, you're building this up little by little. You're adding in a few more rules here and there until you get all the way up to the end. Now, we found that, like I said, this adventure took us longer than definitely longer than the 3 hours. We capped it at 4, but I felt we probably could have used 5, honestly. But my group also likes to role play a lot, which is great, and we had a great time with this adventure. Now, I remember I said that Marlowe the sorcerer is required in this one. So if there's 5 pre-made characters and you have less than 5 players, you just want to make sure Marlowe isn't one of those characters that's left out. And I believe that's because she is the character that can do a lot of spells and a lot of magical options. And it's just that for one of the combats, I believe this is probably going to be required so that the party doesn't have a hard time getting through one of the combats, because you're going to need somebody who can kind of from a distance cast some spells on some adversaries. That seems to be, to me, the only reason that they said this person must be included. So when you get to the end, it talks, it actually has Beyond the Veil and has a little epilogue and tells you that there's also another document available for the Sablewood Forest. If your party wants to keep going, they might finish this and be like, that was great. That was such a fun time. I want to keep playing in this environment. And then you can actually start to homebrew some of your own adventure in this campaign frame, I guess you would say. Daggerheart works on campaign frames, but this one is not one that's in the core rulebook. It's a little separate just for this quick start adventure. The last few pages here, pages 37, 38, and 39, are all more cutouts. If you're going to be playing in person and want to put them on your table, it's got the adversaries you can cut out, some trees for like a forest. It's got the player's carriage that they're going to be using in the beginning. It's got a few little terrain pieces in there as well. But you can see that this is such a self-contained thing that you can pick this up for free. You can go to the Demiplane or the Daggerheart website, I believe, and download this completely for free. Either print it out or just use it on your computer. And try Daggerheart out for yourself to see if this is something that your players, your table enjoys and you want to keep playing. I want to know from you guys in the comments down below if you have any more questions about the Sablewood Messengers. I will try to keep them all spoiler-free. And maybe help if some other game masters have questions about whether or not it would be good for their table. We really enjoyed the connections that you made with players. It really allowed our group to do a lot of amazing role play that they had a great time with. I also do want to mention, I believe, where is it? There is on each player's character sheet, I believe, a question that they need to answer as well. Maybe it might actually be in the Demiplane ones. Where did they find those questions? There's the connections. Oh, it is. Okay, so on the character overview page, like take the Qatari Ranger. One of our members played the Qatari Ranger, that's the cat person, named Varium. So it's got their overview. It talks about what community they come from, their ancestry, their class and their subclass, and what kind of weapon they have. But then it says there's a question. So for example, for this cat ranger person, the Qatari Ranger, the question is, what hybrid animal have you been hunting for years that you're hoping to see while in the Sablewood? And when you go over the answers to these questions at the beginning of the game, before you've even jumped into it, it gives the game master an opportunity to actually work those into the story. And what this is going to do is make the players really feel invested, like it's part of their story too. One thing that's different with Daggerheart is you're not just sitting down and playing something that the game master came up with 100% of everything, and you're just sitting down and playing in it. It's very, I don't even know what word I want to use. Interactive, I guess, would be a good word, between the players and the GM. Yes, there's a basic premise to the story, and yes, there's a goal that's trying to be achieved. But there's a lot of interaction back and forth where the players have the opportunity to help mold the world. I guarantee you multiple groups can sit down and play this Daggerheart Quick Start adventure and not have the same experience, because you've got different players, different answers to these questions, different connections to the other players at the table, and it's going to be different each time. I'm actually going to run this again with a different group of folks, and I guarantee you it will come out to be a completely different experience and different game. So that's kind of an overview of what is in this quick start guide and a little bit of guidance on what you're going to find in there so that you can see if this is great for your table. My table had a great time with this. We really loved it. Again, we did go over the 3-hour mark. We went to 4 hours, and that's with me trying to wrap it up. So it probably could have gone 4.5, if not 5, if we really wanted to. And we were having a great time with the role playing, trying out the new mechanics. I found it very interesting as a GM to get used to spending fear points to do things in the adventure as well. And I did find myself with a few questions afterwards. I felt that I just spent fear most of the time when we were in combat. And I thought there's going to be some ways that I can spend these fear points outside of combat, which there is. And I really encourage you to actually go find Mike Underwood's video. Mike was a additional designer on Daggerheart, and he helped a lot, I believe, with the Quick Start adventure. And he has a great video out there on other things you can do with your fear points other than in combat. And I really want to utilize a lot of these ideas when I run it for the second time. So let me know in the comments down below if you have any more questions about this quick start guide. If tabletop role-playing games is your thing and you enjoyed this, please make sure you hit the subscribe button and become a part of our community. A thumbs up if you liked this video will help push it out to more people. And now you're going to want to watch one of the videos on the next screen. Check that out, and I'll meet you there.